I have a lot of people that come to me and they're like, I want visibility, I want business strategy, but 9 times out of 10, we end up working on stuff like this. We end up working on, their emotional health. We end up working on their mindset. We end up working on setting boundaries for themselves.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Take Back Your Biz Summit, where I'm chatting with industry influencers on how they have found more joy, freedom, and growth in their businesses by taking back what matters to them. So I'm your host, Lauren Black, creative strategist and owner of Bosscation, a business retreat in a box to help entrepreneurs get away from your daily distractions to strategically plan and grow your business. I am so excited for our summit, and I have an amazing guest for you today. So hi, Jenn Scalia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Jenn has been a critical person in my life because she helped me get my first business started. So Jenn was one of my first clients as a graphic designer in the online space when I was just starting Legacy Loft, my first business. And I have really just seen Jenn completely blossom. So Jenn started back then, she was a relationship coach. And since then, she has shifted into business coaching and visibility strategy. And she is speaking all over the country and maybe even the world and, opening for Gary Vee. And so Jenn just really helps people get visible in their businesses. And so that you can, be seen, take your business to the next level, because you could have amazing products and services, but if you're not seen, it doesn't do anything. So, which is why I'm really excited to talk to Jenn today about taking back your power. So let me know, why this is important, first of all.
So I love that you brought in a little bit of my story there, because I think it's important for people to know that, the overnight successes aren't really overnight. They usually take a few years and lots of iterations and lots of different transitions. And, it's the same thing that I went through. And when my business transitioned to what I'm doing now, I really, I just was like hustling. I was doing a lot of work. I was working with tons of clients. I got really burnt out, which seems to be a typical story in this online world, where we just do things that don't feel good, or we do things that we have to do, or we think we have to do, and then we end up resenting our clients, we end up hating our business, and we don't feel good. So that's why I wanted to talk today about taking back your power, because it's also something that I had to do personally, with really just figuring out, how do I enjoy this process? How do I enjoy this business? And, we all join our business, or we all start our business because we want freedom. But a lot of times we end up not having the freedom that we desire. So that's why I wanted to talk about taking back your power and really just owning who you are, what you desire, the things that you want in life, how you want to feel in your business, how you want to feel in your life, the people that you want to be surrounded with, and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, well, you're definitely a great testimony to doing this, because I've seen it firsthand as I've watched you grow in your business. So how can others take back their power?
Yeah, so there's a few different things. The main things, and these are things I work on with my clients as well. I have a lot of people that come to me and they're like, I want visibility, I want business strategy, but 9 times out of 10, we end up working on stuff like this. We end up working on, their emotional health. We end up working on their mindset. We end up working on setting boundaries for themselves. So the number one, most critical thing is really having a mindset practice in place and doing this daily, or if not daily, consistently, but I suggest daily. Most people will tell me, hey, yeah, I have a practice. I don't do it every day. I might do it, once a week or a couple times a week, but I really encourage people to set some some time aside every day, at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you have to really start to focus in on your mindset. And your mindset practice can be anything. For me, it's journaling, and I can talk a little bit about that if you want me to. But for others, it might be meditation, it might be prayer, it might be working out, it might be visualizing, it might be, hypnotherapy. So there's so many different ways to do it. Even listening to motivational videos. I have lots of people that do that, but just something to get you in the mind frame of that high vibe of feeling good. And really also directing your energy and your mind to the things that you actually want. Because if we don't take the time to focus on what we want and what we want out of our day, we're going to end up being really reactive, and it's not going to feel good. Things are going to happen and we're not going to know how to handle it. Then we end up stressed out. Then we end up burnt out. So having a daily mindset practice in place has been critical for me in really creating this business that I actually love.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, your brain chemistry changes when you listen to those meditation, podcasts or whatever, the, motivational speakers. And when you, focus on the positive, your brain really does change to be more positive. Even your posture and your, body and how you position yourself can give you more confidence and, really set the tone for your day.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'll go into my little practice, which I think everybody can do. And like I said, it literally, if you just have 5 minutes a day, even if you think you don't have time, wake up 5 minutes earlier, wake up 10 minutes earlier. And, my number one thing to do is to journal. And for me, that's a combination of visualization and meditation because, like a lot of people, I can't sit still and meditate for even 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour. So for me, my journaling is my meditation, and I'm able to really just zone in, pretty much shut out the rest of the world. And I journal basically the reality that I want. So when I think about, what kinds of clients do I want to work with? What type of business do I want to have? What type of relationship do I want to have? How do I want to feel in my body? What do I want for my health? Those are all things that I journal on. And instead of saying like, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want clients who pay me in full, or I really want a 50K month this month. I actually journal about it in the present tense. So I'll say things like, I'm 10 pounds lighter by the end of the month. I feel amazing in my body. I'm working with incredible clients who pay me in full. I have consistent 50K months every single month. So everything I say that I want, like if you're doing it, remove the I want part and just say it as if it's already happened. And it really just really puts you in this zone of like feeling like, man, I'm a rock star. Like this is amazing and this is awesome. And, we kind of train our minds to feel like that's the truth and that's the reality. And, our mind doesn't know if something is real or not, right? We think it does, but it really is just responding to our energy. It's responding to how we feel about things. So if we can get ourselves in feeling good space about the things that we want, that's when you start to actually really attract those things into your life. So for me, that's been a life-changing practice that I've been doing, I would say probably about 2.5 years. I will admit that there's some days that I don't do it, but I feel also that because I've put the practice in place, I actually just live it. So I know when I want something, I just kind of have it in my head that like, this is what I'm getting. This is what I have. Like, I know I'm going to get it. So I have been able to train myself to have certain beliefs. So I don't have to actually do the journaling process, all the time.
Right. And do you kind of pick a topic for the week or, is it just kind of how you feel?
I journal about everything. So like I mentioned, it would be health, relationship, how I want to feel, the people that I want to be around, my business, my bank account. Like I will journal on everything. If I'm limited, if I only have 5 minutes and I want to get something done, then I'll typically do like whatever's, what I'm struggling with right now, or whatever's kind of going on for me right now. So if it's business related, then I will do something around business. If I'm having trouble in my relationship or I want things to be better, I'll talk about that.
Yeah. And now how do you kind of blend business and personal in general?
I think it's the same thing. I think that a lot of people talk about, what do you do for fun? What do you do outside of business? And I'm like, it's the same thing. And it really becomes the same thing when you're able to create a business that you love, when you're able to create a business around who you are, your personality, and essentially you're just getting paid to be yourself. And, that's really essentially what I help my clients do is figure out, you don't have to be this other person, in your business and then this, a totally different person in your personal life. Like, it's who you are. And if you can bring who you are to the table, that's when you really start to attract your tribe. That's when you really start to make money. That's when you really start to love the business that you're in.
Yeah, well, I found with my branding clients, it's similar where you want to brand yourself. If you are the face of your business, you really want to brand yourself for your personality, and you will then attract the right people because they'll be drawn into your personality and you'll have stronger connections with your clients and, ultimately more referrals, and your business will just naturally grow stronger.
And it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to just be yourself than to try to like be someone else. And yeah, you're going to attract the right people because typically if you're trying to be someone else or you're trying to put on this image, you're going to attract the wrong people. You're going to attract people who are attracted to that person who's not really you. So I know it's hard for a lot of people. I work with a lot of people who are like, come from a corporate background or an educational background or a therapy background where it's really hard for them to blend it together because they're so used to keeping everything so separate.
Yeah, I found that when I first broke into the creative space on my own, and I had been doing design for, corporate, my email structures and everything was sounding very corporate. And I had my brother-in-law was a client, and I sent him this very like professional sounding email, and he laughed. He's like, wow, so professional. And that was just, I was used to that. So I had to kind of break out of that and be like, I don't have to be all, super professional right now. I mean, obviously still professional, but not as like corporate jargon.
Right. And all buttoned up and, wrapped in a pretty little bow. Yeah. I think people really respond to you just being human. That's, for a lot of my clients that are having trouble, I'm like, just be human, just be who you are, be who you are with your friends or your family or the people that are closest to you. And people will respond to that a lot more, especially the shifts and the changes that are going on in the coaching and consulting industry. Like if I wanted a business coach, you could get a business coach anywhere. If I wanted, a branding person, I can get a branding person anywhere. So that personality is really going to be the distinction, whether or not somebody wants to work with you and whether or not somebody wants to keep working with you or keep buying from you.
Yeah, for sure. So I know you have this feel good philosophy. Can you explain kind of what that is and how that, plays into your business?
Yeah. So again, another really important part of my business is, I am someone who teaches people marketing. I am someone who teaches people strategy, but at the same time, I always tell my clients, I will never be the coach that says you have to do XYZ strategy and you have to do it this certain way, because I really feel like when we're forced to do something or we're doing something that doesn't really feel good for us, we don't get the results we desire anyway. So anytime I think about, what am I going to do in my business, whether it's a strategy, whether it's saying yes to working with a coach, whether it's, hiring somebody, I always ask myself, like, how does that feel? Does it feel good? Because if it doesn't feel good, you're going to have this kind of negative energy around you. And you're going to start to attract the negative stuff and not the positive stuff. So I always say to my clients as well, they probably get tired of hearing it because whenever we come up with a strategy or a game plan, I always say, how does that feel? Because I want it to feel really good. I want it to feel exciting. I want it to feel like easy. And when we're doing something because we think we have to do it or we think this certain strategy will work, it will never work. It may work for everybody else. Like, let's say, somebody hates doing webinars and webinars are being shouted from the rooftops. Webinars are the way to get clients, and there's tons of people have webinar courses and, they're doing really great and they're killing it on webinars. But if you hate webinars, and you try to do that strategy and it doesn't feel good for you, you're not showing up the way that you're supposed to energetically, you're like, this sucks, you're not going to get the results you want. You're not going to sell on the webinar. So I always say, find the thing that really plays to your strengths, that supports, the things that you're really good at, and have it feel good. Because when it feels good, that's when the money starts flowing.
Oh, for sure. And I think people can sense when you're not confident in it or you really don't want to be doing something. Yeah. So for me, I actually hate doing web design. And so my business, people would turn to me and I'm like, yeah, I can do this. But so I quote them out and I talk to them a little bit. And I think they could pick up on it that I did not want to do web. So they turned to me for their branding and the design, but not web stuff. And, because they sensed it. And I really didn't want to be doing it. So for me, it was a relief when people didn't end up, instead of just saying like, I don't do web. I should have just put my foot down, and instead I'd like begrudgingly do some web pages. I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I mean, that's just a true example of like the law of attraction as well. And like putting that energy behind it of like, yeah, I really don't want to do this. And then you get the client who's like, okay, I'm not going to hire you for that, right. And I've done that before too, where I'm like, oh, I really don't want to, do this discovery call with this person. I'm really not sure if they're the right person. And then they either don't show up or they cancel. And so it really is just amazing how powerful we are, our minds, our energy in attracting what we want in our lives and businesses.
Yeah, definitely. Now I know with, this take back your power kind of philosophy, how do boundaries play into that? I know you're big into boundaries.
Yeah. Huge. So like I mentioned before, just, the burnout that typically a lot of entrepreneurs go through because we're hustling, we're told that we should hustle, we're burning the midnight oil, we're working our buns off, we're trying every single strategy, we're working with people that we don't really want to work with, doing things that we don't really want to do. And, I think it's so important to set boundaries. And, I have a lot of clients who, they may be just starting and they feel like, I'll do that later, like right now I'm just going to do whatever I can do. And I always tell them that's a big mistake because, when you blow up or when your business gets really booming and when you start getting lots of clients, it's going to be very hard for you to set boundaries then, so I always say set the boundaries now. And for me, it's not even so much boundaries as it is standards. Like, what are the standards for you? Like, how do you want to operate in your business? Who are you willing and not willing to work with? What are you willing and not willing to do? And really create this like personal, what do I call it? A personal policy around certain things in your business. And, you should also be doing it in your life as well, with relationships, with your health. Like, what are some of the things that you're like, this is my standard and I'm not going to accept anything less. This is who I choose to work with, and I'm not going to work with anybody else. This is what I'm going to say yes to, and I'm not going to make exceptions. So I think for us, it's, that combination of like the boundaries, with other people, but also standards for ourselves.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of that in your own business of when you had to step away from something?
Yeah. So for me, like the number one thing that comes to me, and it's funny because we're doing an interview right now, we're doing a summit now, but like I was getting like so many requests to be on people's summits and all kinds of stuff. And so for me, that was one of the things I put in place because I found that, it really wasn't beneficial for me. I didn't really want to do most of them. And I just decided that, hey, we don't do that, I will do it for people that I've worked with, people that, are my past clients. Like they're always the people that I will say yes to if I feel energetically aligned with it. But I don't feel like just because some random person sends me an email and says like, oh, you'd be great for my summit, and they don't even know me, I've never worked with them, they're not in my tribe, and they want me to like email their list, or email my list about their stuff. And I'm like, I don't even know you. So I think before it was kind of like one of those things where I felt like, oh, I have to do this to get exposure, to get visibility. Right. But now it's like, no, I don't have to do that, so that's one of the things. And by putting an actual, policy around it really makes it a lot easier to deal with people as well. So a lot of people, when it comes to setting boundaries, they just don't know how, they don't know how to say no. They don't know how to let people down lightly, without sounding mean or without being a bitch, so it's like, for us, we just say, hey, we'd really love to participate, but it's our company policy that we don't do these types of summits, or we don't, send out solo mailers. So we're very like particular, and people won't question a policy. It's like, that's what's in place and that's what we do. So typically that's our way of handling it is, instead of making it personal, it's just like, hey, this is just a business policy. This is what we do.
Yeah. Now I'm going to flip things around a little bit. So you had mentioned, some people reaching out to you and wanting to be, have you as a speaker. So first of all, I am so thankful that you said yes to this. But for those who are trying to step into their power and step up in their visibility, and, sometimes they need that break. And so they just want to put their name out there, reach out and have the confidence to do that. What are some ways that they can approach it?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to relationships first. So, it's about the relationships, it's about the connections, and, not trying to take the shortcut, right? Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I know you, I've known you for years, and I also love the philosophy behind, what you're doing. So for me, it was a double yes, right? There was no resistance to that. But, when I have somebody who's just random, I've never heard of them, I've never connected with them before, I have no idea who they are, and they're just like, oh, I think you'd be great for this. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, really? So, I think for that, if you want to really start to connect with influencers, if you really want to start to get your name out there, it really starts with, being genuine, being real, connecting with people, creating relationships, instead of looking for people as like, hey, I could really use that person on my summit because I know that they have 15,000 followers, or I know that they have, 50,000 people on their list. Say, I'd love to really connect with that person because they're awesome. And what can I do for them? And I think that that's the problem. I think a lot of people approach it as like, what can I get out of that person? Yeah. Versus how can I help them? What can I do for them? How is this going to benefit them? And I also feel, if somebody were to approach me with more of that, as far as, hey, here's how this will really benefit you, that I would be more apt to consider doing that for somebody, even if I didn't know them, because, essentially a lot of these things come across as like, hey, I don't have a list, I'm just starting, you have a list of 15,000 people, can you mail your list about me? So I think it just, there's just things just need to change. I think that maybe has worked in the past. But really it's about connections, it's about relationships, and, just being of service to people rather than looking at people as like, what can they do for me and what can I get out of them?
Yeah, I found connections and relationships with people to be critical. When I first started in business, I remember talking to Raina Pomeroy, and she said that she scaled her business because she jumped on like 100 coffee chats just for free with people in her first year. And so I started doing more coffee chats. I think she was my first. And so I was really nervous, didn't know what to expect. And then after that, when you just start developing relationships, seeing who you connect with, supporting them when they're launching things, and, building that two-way street so that you're right, you're not just like, what's in it for me?
Yeah. And also like when I have clients that do like personal outreach and things like that. And, I think it's a really great method. People want that connection. People want to feel like, okay, I matter and I'm a person, and, don't go at it like, oh, this person could be a potential client. Because that's, I feel like a lot of people do approach it like that. Oh, this person could be a client. This person could be a client. Well, can't they be a friend? Can't they be a peer? Can't they be a mastermind buddy? Can't they be a JV partner, an affiliate? Maybe they have people that they can refer to you. So, look at it from, the bigger picture of like, do I even just want to connect with this person because they're awesome and I like their vibe? Or do I just want to get something out of that person? So yeah, I love that. I think it's great to just connect. And, when I first started, I actually did a podcast, and I interviewed like 60 people on my podcast in like a matter of like 3 weeks. And those relationships, I still have relationships with those people to this day. And that was probably 3.5 years ago. And I didn't want anything from them. It was just like, hey, let's jump on an interview. I think you're really awesome. I think that you could, really help, my audience and give some really great insights. And I've created relationships with all of those people. So I think that's a great way too, either a summit or even just a podcast and just getting people on to interview them. You can create really amazing relationships that way.
Yeah, for sure. And then you probably also, a lot of those people were the ones that ended up being guest experts in your membership site.
Yeah.
And yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And it's just like, it's such an easy, and it's a two-way street. Like, hey, I need this, or hey, I need that. Hey, I'd love to have you come chat with my audience. Great. I'd love to have you come chat with my audience, so it definitely becomes that like, that mutually beneficial thing. When it feels like it's just for me, then that's when, you're going to get the pushback and you're not going to get what you want.
Yeah. So I know that you're a self-proclaimed introvert, correct?
Yes.
So how does that play into taking back your power?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's harder, when you're an introvert, to be understood. And I don't want to make like a blanket statement, but, a lot of times people feel like, oh, you're introverted, you're antisocial, you don't like people, and for me, it's just like, I love people. I love connecting with people. I love doing stuff like this. I go to events. I'm actually speaking in 2 weeks again. But for me, what that means for me is like, I need to just really have those boundaries that we talked about and those standards in place in order to protect myself, in order to protect my energy, in order to protect my bandwidth. That's what I really need, as an introvert, is that time to be able to recuperate and that time to be able to recharge so that I can continue to show up for my clients. I can continue to show up on social media. So it's not that, I'm shy or that I'm scared to show up, but it's just like, I need that time because I take on a lot of people's energy, so when I'm in a room with a lot of people, I take on their energy and then I'm like pooped for like 4 days in a row, so I just have to be really mindful of my boundaries, of my standards, and what I say yes to as well. So a lot of times, like if I go to an event, if I'm speaking at the event, I'm usually invited to the event as well, but I don't feel the need to be there the entire time. I definitely set those boundaries for myself. Like, okay, I'm going to be there for that day. I'll mix and mingle with people, but I'm not going to force myself to be there all 3 days of the event because I know that's really going to drain me. So, I'm just very particular and I just know, my boundaries and I know what I need. And I just have to be really mindful of that, even when I say yes to things or when I say no to things.
Yeah, for sure. I know me, I'm an extrovert, and I kind of sometimes can be on the introvert side where like you can keep me in my office all week and I'll be fine without seeing people. But yeah, at conferences and things, like I want to be the one mingling till like midnight all day, every day for like a week straight, and I'm happy. So So what has been maybe a pivotal or impactful moment for you where things kind of shifted in your business?
Well, I think a lot. There's been a lot of moments, but let me think. I think it really was when I decided to change my business model to suit me. I think that, again, if we go back to what we think we're supposed to do, especially as like coaches or consultants or people in this online space, like we have to do certain things in order to make it, in order to be successful. And I was, checking off the boxes, all the things that I thought I had to do. I actually had a meeting with one of my coaches, and we only had 3 sessions together. And the very first session we were together, he's like, "Why are you doing this in your business?" And I was like, that's a really good question, and it really got me thinking. I pretty much said, well, I thought I had to, and he's like, but it doesn't suit you. It doesn't suit your personality. It doesn't excite you. And it was at that point that I really started to shift from like doing a lot of the one-on-one coaching and supporting people in that way to shifting to doing more training and teaching and facilitating, because that really was in my zone of genius. Whereas I was doing a lot of the one-on-one, and even though I was really good at it, I didn't enjoy it. After a day of calls, I was pooped. I couldn't be creative. So that zapped my energy. And so really when I decided to like hang that up and say, okay, this is really my zone of genius, and this is what I'm going to put most of my focus on, I feel like my business completely changed. How I felt about my business changed. So for me, and I say this to everybody, like find the business model that works for you, and it doesn't have to be every single one, because people think they have to be an author, a speaker, a facilitator, an event planner, a one-on-one coach, a course creator. Like you don't have to do all of them. Like pick the ones that feel really good for you and put your time, energy, and focus into that one thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can sometimes we're so busy looking around at what everyone else is doing that it is hard to find that path of our own way, our own path. And, we can sometimes go under fear of being judged that, we're shifting or changing things. And, my family looked at me like I was crazy when I wanted to start Bosscation. And they just didn't get it. And so you kind of have to just pick your focus. And, I knew it was my zone of genius creating these strategy guides. And, it was the way I could work with people best and reach a lot of people through, one program rather than trying to just get on the calls with people and do one-on-one, as you said. So, definitely.
And also just thinking about your impact. Like you said, you want to reach more people, and knowing, hey, I can only take on, maybe 8 to 10 clients at a time. Like, or I could work with 80 clients at a time, in a group program. But, also just like, what feels best for you? Some people don't like groups. Some people don't like online. Yep. They want to be on stage, or they want to be facilitating an event in person. Like that's what lights them up. So really your strengths, like know your strengths, know what feels good for you, and then create the business around that.
Yeah, for sure. So now I know you have a lot of ideas and you're, doing new programs. So how do you plan ahead in your business?
I typically it's funny because it's the end of the year, right? And I am looking forward to 2018. I'm like, okay, what can I do? So I'll have like this kind of like bird's eye view, like bigger like map of like, okay, this is how I want the year to go. Here's my, goals for the year. Here's what I think is going to happen. But the reality is things shift and change so fast that I know I'm really just doing things in like a 3-month block. And I'm like, okay, what is my focus in the next 60 to 90 days? What is the thing that I want to get out? What is my plan for those days? And so I have this kind of loose thing over here that's like the bigger picture, but I really only focus in like short periods of time, because at least for me, I know that things just change and shift so rapidly. And I just come up with a lot of ideas. So I like to always be open. And I tell people that all the time, be open. Some people are just so rigid with their plan, and they're so rigid with their goal and what they're putting out there. And, that's a really good, quality. And I'm very much like that as well. But, especially in our industry with the way things change and marketing changing all the time. And, people are getting smarter about, saying yes to working with people and paying people money. So we have to shift and change as those things shift shift and change as well. And if we are too rigid and we're like, nope, this is what I'm going to do, and we'll end up falling flat on our face. So always be open to change. But for me, yes, I like the shorter blocks of time because things change so rapidly.
Now, is that how you also kind of plan out your investments for your business, just kind of 3 months at a time?
Typically, so for the investments in my business, I know like this is how much I want to invest for the year. And I'm much smarter now. Not that I wasn't smart in the past, but in the past, I really was just like very reactive. If I connected with someone, I was like, oh, I want to work with this person. I would just do it, and I wouldn't even think. I would just make that decision. I would be really decisive. And, now it's more like, okay, now I need to figure out what do I need most in my business, because I've had so many training, I've worked with so many coaches, I've been to so many events. I now think about what do I need most right now? So do I need help with sales? Do I need help with speaking? So this past year, one of my main goals was to get out of my shell and to do more speaking. And it was something that I was terrified to do before, but I specifically sought out someone who could help me with my speaking. So instead of kind of going for like a generalist or somebody who could help me in a bunch of other ways, I said, this is the thing that I want to conquer this year. And so I specifically sought out the best person who could help me speak. So it's also a really great way to combat like the shiny object syndrome is knowing like, okay, even in, again, like that 30 to 60 day period, like what do I need most right now? Is it sales help? Is it, putting together a funnel? Is it, updating my website? Like whatever that is, have that in mind. So that way, when this like awesome Instagram course comes out, or, this thing about Facebook groups comes out and you're like, oh, that sounds really awesome. But you go back to your goal and say, well, I'm really focused on updating my website. I don't really need this Instagram course right now, or I don't really need this Facebook groups course because that's not what I'm focusing on right now. So really just having that focus of like, okay, this is what I'm working on. This is what I need help most with, and seek out that.
Right. And if you don't, then a lot of times too, you end up starting courses like that Instagram course and you don't have time to finish it. And so it just gets left in the back burner.
Yeah, right. It's not a priority, but it looked good.
Yep. And I've been finding I do the same thing with just kind of my time investments of, okay, if I only have a certain amount of times in the day, then I can't be watching every webinar, even if they're free. These podcasts, webinars, ebooks, books, there are so many resources out there. And it's important to always be learning and growing and stretching yourself, but it needs to be the right season, the right thing.
Totally focused. And I'll do that. Sometimes I'll go on little like stints where I like sign up for like 3 webinars, and then I start getting the notifications, and I'll get my head back in the game, and I'm like, delete. Like, I'm not even going to attempt to watch it or watch the replay. Like, I don't need that right now. So yeah, it's really important to know like what your focus is and what you need help with most. So that way you can make those informed decisions.
Right. So where else have you maybe been intentional in your business that's paid out for you?
Oh, I think probably who I work with. Has been something that has been, really crucial. In the beginning, I was getting lots of inquiries to work with people, and I did work with a lot of the wrong clients, and not that there was anything wrong with them, but, maybe we just didn't jive, or they weren't at a certain place in their business where I would have liked them to be. And so now when I work with people, I actually seek out my clients. So I do very limited one-on-one, like I'll work with 1 or 2 people at a time instead of 12 like I used to. But I'll actually reach out to somebody, and typically it's somebody that has taken one of my courses, has been in my membership site, that I'm already connected with, and I'll just reach out to them and say, hey, I'd really love to work with you. You're my ideal client. And so that's how I get my clients now, because instead of, having them pick me and be reactive and saying, okay, you want to work with me? Awesome, I'll do that. Now I'm the one that's saying, hey, I get to pick who I want to work with, so that I can create that flow and that ease and just that excitement in my business, because I know that, the times where I've worked with the wrong clients, it's been hell. I just would see their name on my calendar and be like, oh my God, I don't really want to work with this person, or I don't really want to talk to them today, and you don't want to feel that way about your clients and your customers. So I think for me, just being really intentional with that. And also that goes back to the standards, that we talked about earlier, like this is who I choose to work with. This is who I choose not to work with, and really sticking to that.
Yeah. Now, how did you kind of come to that realization of who the people are that you want to be working with?
Well, I think it's just because I've worked with so many people, in my group programs, in my membership, we have, hundreds of people in there. I've really, been able to figure out like, okay, also, what's my zone of genius? What do I love working with clients on? I
Mm-hmm.
don't love working with clients on tech. So when a client is saying to me, what's MailChimp, or how do you set up a landing page? Like, that's not who I want to work with. That's not my zone of genius. It's kind of annoying to me. So now I know I need to work with somebody who's a little bit more advanced. I need to work with somebody who's, maybe been in business for six months to a year versus somebody who's brand new and doesn't know anything. So just by working with people throughout the year, I've, really honed in on like, what do I enjoy doing? And what, how do I want to work with people? Because I think there's also a difference between what you can do, just like you were talking about web design. Yes, I can do it. Yes, I might even be really good at it, but I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that it's really important to understand, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to do it if you don't like it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think your business will ultimately grow a lot faster when you do just hone in on those clients. But you do have to kind of start more general when people are starting out, because you don't know who you like and don't like to work with.
I tell people all the time, clarity happens with action. Like we could sit here and create a whole 2-page, client avatar, but until we actually start working with clients and know who they are and actually start doing it, we won't really know. We won't really have that clarity. So
well, that happened to me with Legacy Loft when I was, I had started doing wedding invitations and then broke into the online space basically through you and all of the referrals you sent me, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And I was working with a lot of coaches through you, health coaches and business coaches. And so those were my clients. And then when I wanted to take my business full time, break away a little bit from the wedding invitations and do more branding design, because I loved branding, I was like looking around at different people's websites and like, I think I really connect with wedding photographers. And so I built my whole new website for wedding photographers. And then when I got into it, I realized the brand strategy side of things, I was not good with business to consumer clients. I needed other business to business clients, like coaches who are working with, or certain coaches that are working with other business people, or, marketing people, copywriters that work for other businesses, because I could understand their clients a lot better. And so I had just, branded myself for one niche that I hadn't even worked with, and realized that wasn't the right niche for me.
Yeah. I tell people, like, if you have like a couple different ideas, like if you're just starting and you're like, oh, maybe I want to work with this type of person, maybe I want to work with that type of person, just go and do it. Like, just say, okay, I'm going to pick 3 people who are, wedding people. I'm going to pick 3 people who are coaches. Work with those 3 people. And it could just even be a call, an hour-long call, or just a short project that you have with them, and see what you enjoy. See if you like working with those people. And so, it is something that you actually have to do in order to refine and to get clarity on.
Yeah. Sometimes your niche finds you rather than you finding your niche.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, this has been so amazing. I want to wrap things up here. So I just have one final question for you. If you could give one piece of advice for just taking back your business in general, what would that be?
Gosh, I think I already said it. But I think it's definitely like setting your standards and setting your boundaries and just not wavering on that. Just like you wouldn't in any other area of your life, set your standards and stick to them, because number one, you're going to feel better. You're going to start to attract what you want, and you're going to really repel the people that you don't want, which is really awesome. But also, like, really just knowing like who you are and standing your ground, you'll be respected by more people, not only by yourself, but people are going to say, wow, that girl, like, she knows her stuff. She's a boss. Like, she knows what she wants and she's going to get it. And I think it also sends that that message to the universe that, like, I know what I want and I have clarity and I'm not going to accept anything less. So I think definitely setting standards for yourself and not going back on them. Like, that's the important part. Sometimes we can say, hey, I want this, I have these standards, but then we waver on those standards, or something happens and we're like, oh, I'll just make a little exception here or there. But really stick to your guns and like take that, like, own it, because we are so powerful. Like, own that power.
That's awesome. I love it. So Jenn, I know you have a free mindset mini course for our audience. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So this is, so I, talked a little bit or a lot about mindset today, and you know, for me, I started with business strategy. That was my background, was marketing, social media. That was what I was doing, you know, in corporate before I started my business. And, you know, what I found by working with a lot of people is that it really does start with the mindset. It really starts with, you know, setting ourselves up for success. And so I created a 6-day, 6-figure mindset success course. And, you know, what I love about this is that it's not super woo, and I don't have any problems with woo, but a lot of people, especially if they're coming from a corporate background, like they can't wrap their heads around like visualization and like, you know, kind of like more of this like mindset stuff. So the way I created it is very practical, very hands-on, very like, hey, just do these things on a daily basis and you can start to shift your energy. So, you know, with the mindset work that I have and even my mindset courses that I have, it's all very down to earth and practical and things that you can just really just apply in your day, like right away. So the course is awesome. It really just walks you through like the major steps of like getting your mindset straight. And I'm excited to share it with people because I've gotten rave reviews from that, and there are practices that you can just start to implement and do every single day.
Awesome. That is such a great resource. So you guys can grab that for free at jenscalia.com/mindset-mini-course. And I'll have that link in the show notes as well. If you haven't already joined the Take Back Your Biz Summit Challenge and giveaway, make sure you sign up at takebackyourbiz.com so you can be entered into an amazing giveaway. And you can see all of our other speakers like Jenn share how they're taking back their business. So thank you so much, Jenn, for being here. This was a great chat.
Awesome. Bye.
Okay, bye.